This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, welcome everyone. Bruchim Abam. Welcome back. Parshas Vayeitzey. So, what are we going to speak about Parshas Vayeitzey? So last week, I came across a very rare sefer. This is a sefer I never saw anybody had. I saw it quoted, and I actually went to a long time ago to one of these old bookstores, Mizrahi bookstore in Flatbush, and he had this old purple-bound sefer. The name of the sefer is Avas Torah. Avas Torah was published in 1905. It was written by Rav Pinchas Zalman Segal Ish Horowitz. And he has an amazing count. Before computers, he counts the words of the Torah, and one of his main theses is how many times is Hashem's name mentioned in the Chumash. I actually spoke about it once, a long, long time ago. How many times is Hashem's name in the Chumash? 1,820 times. The exact number of words in the Haggadah Shel Pesach. Okay, so one time when we get to Pesach, we'll talk about that. So he's making this calculation about how do you count the names of Hashem. So whenever you get up to like a major part of the Torah, he says, okay, we're up to 1,500. We're up to 7,000. At every major interval, he lets you know where you're up to. So when we get to the pasuk in Bereshis, look at number 2. V'ha'adam yada es Chava ishtoi, and Adam knew his wife Chava, which refers to Adam lived with Chava. The first zivug, the first marital act. It's a lesson of Yediyah. Yediyah, by the way, means to be mizdabek, to know, means to, Adam was mizdabek with Chava. He says that word Chava is the 1,113th word in the Chumash. Okay, got it? 1,113. And the word before Chava, the word after Chava, is the word Ishtoi. What's the gematria of Ishtoi? So Aleph Shin Taf Vav is 707. So if Chava is word 1113, 1013, and Ishtoi is 707, together that equals what? 1,820, which is like his key number in the Sefer. That the most important number in the Torah is 1,820, which are the number of Hashems in the Torah. That's Lefi Darka. That's his approach to the Chumash. The key number is 1,820, and another remes to that is Chava is word 1113, and Ishtoi is 707. Fine. But then he says, well, if Chava is word 1113, 1013, then what's the word 2 words before? Yada. Yada is then word what? 1,111. Oh! 1,111, like perfect unity. The word for perfect unity is Yada. The first time in the Torah that you have an act of a marital union of husband and wife, Ish v'Isha, which we know the ultimate zivug, the ultimate achtos, is Ish v'Isha. And what number word is that first act of zivug? Yada. And what number word is it? 1,111. That indicates that in the ideal world, in Gan Eden, the purpose of zivug is 1111, the perfect unity. Okay, very interesting. So says Rav Pinchas Zalman Segal Ish Horowitz, that got me going. Because if word number 1111 is Yada, the first union of husband and wife, especially in Gan Eden, you can imagine, this Rashi makes it clear this was Koidim the Chet. So before the Chet of the Eitz Hadas, the Zivug, the union of husband and wife was in its pristine, ideal form, in Kadosh V'Tahar, so it's perfect unity. So therefore Yada is 1111. So now, says Pinchas Zalman Segal Ish Horowitz, let me count what's the 11,111th word in the Torah. Right? And that gets us to this week's Parsha. Where? Look at number 3. Vayavoy Eleha Yaakov. Yaakov lived with his wife. Another zivug, the perfect zivug. So I'm thinking, who must this be the zivug of? Yaakov and Rachel. No. Vatiten lo yesbilha shivchasa leisha vayavoy Eleha Yaakov. The word vayavoy is word 11,111. So you say, why would the perfect unity be Yaakov and Bilhah? Says the Sefer Avos Torah Pashat. Yaakov and Leah? Yaakov didn't think it was Leah. He thought it was Rachel. So that wasn't a perfect unity. He didn't know who it was. The next day, Yaakov and Rachel, it was Asur, like last week. He wasn't allowed to really live with Rachel. It was Achos Isha. So the perfect unity, the perfect zivug is who? Yaakov and Bilhah. So therefore, the 11,111th word in the Torah is Vayavoy Eleha Yaakov. So it comes out, says the Sefer Avos Torah, the 1,111th word in the Torah is Yada, the act of zivug of Adam and Chava, the perfect unity in Gan Eden Mikedem, before any taint of sin entered anybody's mind. And the 11,111th word in the Torah is what? Vayavoy Eleha Yaakov, by who? Not by Leah. Leah, he didn't know it was Leah. Not by Rachel. Rachel was Achos Isha. By Bilhah. Now, let's think, says the Avos Torah. If that was such a perfect zivug, you can imagine there must have been like a tremendous child come out of that. Who was the child of Yaakov and Bilhah? Dan. Who's Dan? Dan was the one who said, Lishuascha kivisi Hashem. He had the greatest emunah in the Torah. He always hoped for Hashem's salvation. Why? Why was Dan the one who expresses a yearning for Hashem's salvation? Because he was such an he was the product of the act of absolute achdus. Therefore, he was zoicha to that. That's Ad Kan Divrei Sefer Ahavas Torah. Again, it's a very rare sefer. The first time I saw it, it was quoted in the Oitzer Plois HaTorah. He didn't quote this; he quoted something else. That's the first time I came across the sefer. I happen to have it. But I've never seen it anywhere, Okay. So, a couple years ago I got a sefer, Deya Es Hashem. The name of the sefer, Deya Es Hashem, this sefer was written by somebody, Rabbi Avram Yeshaya Trupp, an Einikel of the Granat, Gon Rav Naftali Trupp. Our Rosh Hashiva, Rav Henoch Leibowitz, his Rebbitzin, the Rebbitzin Leibowitz, Allah Hashem, was the granddaughter of the Granat, Gon Rav Naftali Trupp. So he wrote a very interesting sefer. It's called Deya Es Hashem. And he says this really got him going. Because if the 1,111th word in the Torah is Yada by Adam, and the 11,111th word is Vayavoy by Yaakov, then he said, I got to figure out, what is the 111,111th word in the Torah? I mean, it's got to be killing you, right? Like, what is it? So he said it's very easy to find out. And by the way, any computer today you could put in what number word is it? So he said, oh boy, he realized that the Torah doesn't have more than 80,000 words. So he's stuck. So that's the end of the experiment. 1111, right? 1,111 is Yada. 11,111 is Vayavoy, and 111,000 we're done. We're out of the park. Then he realized there's more than just the Chumash, there's Tanakh. So let's utilize this method of, let's figure out what is the 111th word of the Tanakh. And he says he put it in his computer. He said, I'm not going to tell you I counted. He said, I put it in my computer, and I was so shocked, I got the experience of my life. Now this is a real Talmud Chacham. This is, an Einikel of the Granat. He says, I got the most incredible experience of my life. Look at number 5. Vatimaher, she hurried. Vatakam Avigayil, and Avigayil got up. Vatirka valachamar, she rode on the donkey. V'chamosh naroiseha, and 5 of her maidservants, Hahochos L'Ragla, Vatelech Acharei Malachei David. She followed the messengers of David. This is after David proposed to her, after her husband died. So she's headed to David. Vatehi Loi Leisha, and she was to him as a wife. What's the lashon of zivug in this pasuk? Vatehi, the 111th word in Tanakh is Vatehi, of the union of David and Avigayil. So you say, Avigayil, I never heard of her. So let's look. Who is Avigayil? Avigayil was the most chashuv and the holiest of all of David's wives. How do you know that? Of course we know that. The Mishnah says in Sanhedrin, a king is not allowed to have more than 18 wives. What if she's the biggest tzaddikus in the world? What if she's like the lashon of the Mishnah is Avigayil? No, still can't marry her. So you see, Avigayil was the holiest of all of David's wives. Plus, look at number 7. The Gemara says Avigayil is one of the Shiva Nevios. She's one of the 7 prophetesses. None of the other wives of David were Nevios. Bichlal, we know David loved his wives more than anybody ever loved their wife. How do we know that? If you heard Monday's Shiur, remember that David said about Yonasan, I love you so much. My love to you is greater than ahavas nashim. That I love you more than I love my wife. Meaning David, nobody ever in Tanakh ever said they love their wife, except for David. David said to Yonasan, I love you more than I love. So David loved his wife, and of all his wives, who was the holiest of his wife? Avigayil. And who was the product of David and Avigayil? Kilov. Who's Kilov? Kilov is one of the 4 people who never did Avera, the Gemara Babasa says. 4 people never did Avera. Yishai, the father of David. Binyamin, the son of Yaakov. Amram, the father of Moshe. Kilov, the son of David. Why do you think Kilov was Zoicha to reach this great madrega that he never did Avera? Because the union of David and Avigayil was the holiest union in history. So union number 1, union 1, 1, 1, 1 is Adam and Chava. Union 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 is Yaakov and Bilhah. And union 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 is David and Avigayil. And in fact, Kilov was considered one of the greatest Talmidei Chacham of all time. By the way, what was Kilov's real name? His real name was Daniel. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin. Why is he called Kilov? Because Mephibosheth put David to shame in learning. Every time Mephibosheth said a shiur, he shamed David with his shakla v'tarya. And David suffered from Mephibosheth. So Hashem paid back Mephibosheth that David had a kid Kilov, and Kilov put Mephibosheth to shame with his learning. But why was David Zoicha to have a kid like Kilov? Because of the union, the achdus that he had with Avigayil. Says the Deus Hashem, I'll tell you the truth. I wanted to check up whether my computer was working. So I put in another computer. Everybody knows computers have personalities, and they're not always good personalities. Sometimes they get moody, Sometimes computers need therapy. Computers have personality. But anyway, so you put in a second computer, and actually the word Vatihi came up to be 111,112. So we have a problem here. It's what we call Shnei computers Hamachishim Zeh. So you say, off by 1, right? But, how do computers argue? What's the Nekudas HaMachlekes between the 2 computers? So he says there's an amazing thing. I never knew this. If you look in Parshas Hazinu, the Gra says, how many words in Parshas Hazinu? I didn't know this. The Gra says, Keminyan Taryag plus Torah. There are 614 mitzvahs in 614 words in Hazinu. I didn't know that. Okay, Taryad. So Taryag plus the whole Torah. So the whole Hazinu. Okay. Actually, I'm not sure, but I think the whole Hazinu. So he writes, he put into the computer that said 111,112. How many words in Hazinu? And there's 615, but they're only supposed to be 614. So the Gra says, the Nekudas HaMachlekes is, there's one pasuk in Hazinu, a very interesting word in Hazinu. Right? If you look in number 11, there's a word, Hal Adoishem. Now this is very important. You have to know how to pronounce this word. This word is a mangled word. This word people mispronounce. The word is Hal, pause, Adoi, and then Noi. Meaning, not Hal Adoishem, but Hal Adoishem. But the question is, when you write the Sefer Torah, you need to write it a Hey, space, Lashem. As if it would be 2 words. In fact, in my Chumash, they say the big Hey is a separate word. Hey, Lashem, but it's read 1 word, but it's written as 2 words. The question is it really 2 words or is it really 1 word? So the Sefer Deus Hashem says really it's 1 word. I mean, how could a Hey be a separate word? There's no word that has 1 letter, so really it's 1 word. So the computer that said that Vatihi is 111,111, they hold Hal Hashem as 1 word the way it's supposed to be, as I darf to zayin. And therefore it comes out Vatihi is 111,111. But the computer that says it's 111,112 mistakenly counted the Hey as a separate word. That's the conclusion of Hal Hashem. So I couldn't get this out of my head, this whole 111 business. I don't know why. I was dreaming of 1. So then I realized that if you take the word Aleph, take the gematria of the word Aleph. Aleph, Lamed, Pei. What's the gematria of Aleph, Lamed, Pei? 111. Right? So the word Aleph, the one, the numeral 1, is gematria 111. It's endless. Now, let's add to that. Because we know, how many letters are in the Hebrew alphabet? 22. 22, right? But then you have the 5 enda letters, right? But then right? And now let's think. Tuf is 400. And the Chaf is 500. And the Mem is 600. And the Nun is 700. And the Pei is 800. And the Tzadi is 900. And what's 1,000? Aleph, which is 1, becomes Elef and 1,000. That's the Noid Behuda to the Hakdama to Shas. So how many letters are in the alphabet then? 28. Count the number of letters in the first pasuk in Bereshis. 28 letters. Why? Because Hashem created the world with the Aleph base. So there are 28 letters in the first pasuk of Bereshis. By the way, what's the first Rashi in Chumash? Really, the Torah should have started with HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem. But instead, what does Rashi say? It wants to teach us that Eretz Yisrael belongs to us. Koyach, Masav, Higid, La'amoy. Rashi. What parak of Tehillim is that pasuk in? 111. Amazing. 111. Why? Because it's the first pasuk of the Chumash. So obviously, if the first pasuk in the Chumash is teaching you that Eretz Yisrael belongs to you, it has to be a pasuk in the 111th chapter of Tehillim. So if Aleph is Gematria 111, and then you add Elef to it, then it's 1111. It's like endless ones. Perfect Achdos. Okay. So what am I going to do with this? So I was in Dallas on Shabbos, so I met a very dear friend, a dear tzaddik. His name is Ivan Sachs, and he presented me with a rock. Gave me a rock. I'll tell you the truth. It was a beautiful rock. He painted it for me. Here it is. It's a very colorful rock. And I was very touched. It's a nice memento. And it says Ain Od Milvado on it. So I figured, okay, it's good, It'll help me keep my focus. Then it says Rak Hashem. It's like a pun. Rak Hashem. Okay? And I'm going to the airport on the way home. I say, Ain Od Milvado. Ain Od Milvado. And then something hit me in the airport. I'm going to share with you in a minute. But then I said, I think everybody's missing something. Because we counted the 111th word in Tanakh, Vatahi by David. We counted the 111th word, that's Vayavoi by Yaakov. We counted the 1111th word, that's what? Yada by Adam. How come nobody's counting the 111th word in the Chumash? So I ran to open the Chumash, and I started counting to the 111th word. And what did I get? I got the last Maramokam on your sheet. Vayikra Elohim layabasha eretz ulamikvei hamayim, and to the gathering of water kara yamim. Yamim, seas. I said that's why nobody counted it, because you can't do anything with it. They conveniently forgot. Not forgot. I'm sure they counted it, but you never ask a question you can't answer. So what are you gonna do with yamim? Then Hashem gave me mamish matana toiva. Back to the rock, back to the Ain Od Milvado. So I'm in the airport. I'm thinking about the ones, and then it hit me. What's Ain Od Milvado? Ain Od Milvado is all there is God. God is one. Ain Od Milvado is Rashi Tevos, Ayin, Aleph, Mem. No? Ayin, Aleph, Mem, Gematria, 111. Right? Ain, Ayin, Oid, Aleph, Milvado, Mem. No? You're with me? This wasn't easy. This is not complicated, yeah? Ain, Oid, Milvado. So you're right. Aleph, Ayin, right? Aleph, Ayin, Mem. I tricked you a little bit. Aleph, Ain, Oid, Ayin, Mem. Ain, Oid, Milvado. Look on the rock. Aleph, Ayin, Mem. 111. Why? Ain, Od Milvado. 111. Okay, what are you going to do with that? It's interesting. It fits in nicely. Ain Od Milvado. 111.
So what does it have to do with the word Yamim?
Nothing yet. I'm not there yet. I'm just good. That was an important clarification. So far, nothing. So let's take this and the siyata d'shmaya. We shall see mi Torah seinu nairais. Okay, look at number 15 of Gemara in Chulin. Amar Rabbi Shiur ben Levi. Rabbi Shiur ben Levi said, "What is the most frightening thing in this world? The scariest thing in this world? Like something there's no way out of." Says the Gemara, white mules. The scariest thing in this world is a white mule. You do not want to face a white mule. If you get hit by a white mule, you're down for the count. There's no way to remedy yourself. Says the Gemara, Lama Nikra, what are they called? Yemim. Lama Nikra Shemani Yemim. She'emasim utas ala briyos. People are scared of them. Dam Rabbi Chanina. Nobody ever asked me to get cured from the blow of a white mule and survive. Meaning anyone who's ever kicked by a white mule, drops dead on the spot. Frek the Gemara, I know a guy who lived. So the Gemara says, no, it doesn't mean v'chaya and lived. It means nobody was cured from the blow. You can't heal the blow. Says the Gemara, but I know a guy who was healed. It's dafka, a white mule that has a white tipped foot. Okay, random. Okay, very good. The Gemara continues. Ain Od Milvado. The pasuk says in Vas Chanan, Ain Od Milvado. Amar Rabbi Chanina va'afilu kshafim. There's nothing other than God. Meaning, what do you mean? There's nothing other than God? Not even witchcraft. Not even kishuf. Says the Gemara, there was a woman who was trying to get some dirt from underneath Rabbi Chanina. She was trying to kill him with witchcraft. So Amar La, Rabbi Chanina said, take it, you won't be successful. You know why? Ain Od Milvado. Don't worry, I'm not scared of you. You could take the dirt and try to hurt me. Ain Od Milvado. Frek the Gemara, what do you mean? Why is it called kishuf? It's called kishuf that it's makchish pamalya shamala. It could actually counteract HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So why is Rabbi Chanina not worried? He says, don't worry, Ain Od Milvado. I'm not worried about kishuf. Kishuf is very powerful. Says the Gemara, no, Rabbi Chanina is special. He has a lot of merits. So there's a famous piece here, Reb Chaim Elazner in the Nefesh HaChaim, Shar Gimel, Parak Yud Beis. A very fundamental piece, a very powerful piece, and something we should always remember and think about and take into account. So Reb Chaim Elazner, the Gemara is saying that Rabbi Chanina was not as scared of witchcraft because he had a lot of merit, which almost sounds like Rabbi Chanina was sort of boasting. Don't mess with me. I'm not afraid of you. But there was what to be afraid of. No, Rabbi Chanina has a lot of zechusim. Can anyone really rely on their own zechusim and feel confident in their own zechusim? So Chaim Elazner says like this: the way Hashem set up the world is He endowed other things in this world with power. Kishuf has real power. People have real power. Kishuf could do things to you. People could do things to you. Things could hurt another person. That's how Hashem set up the world. God sort of took a step back and allowed things and entities and powers to have power. However, at the end of the day, the Rebbeinu Shalom is Adoin Kol. He's the master of everything. Every God of all the nations are Elil. It's nothing. But what do you mean it's nothing? Kishuf has strength. Avodah Zarah has power. It's only nothing if you're mamin with every fiber of your being, and you understand and recognize that all of these things that Hashem endowed power to, ultimately they've been endowed by God, and all there exists in truth on its most basic level is the unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Achdus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Achdusai Pashut Yisbarach. That if a person cleaves to the idea that at the end of the day, all the reality is just the Ribono Shel Olam. If a person focuses attention on Ain Od Milvado, that yes, this person maybe could hurt me, or that thing could hurt me, or that force could hurt me, or that ayin hara, or all these things that people are scared of. But a person realizes and focuses and cleaves to the notion that at the end of the day, it's all God endowed, and God overrules and overrides everything, and everything is just a manifestation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. At that moment that you cleave to that idea, all koichos disintegrate, evaporate, and disappear. And no one could hurt you, and nothing could harm you, and nothing could infringe on your rights, and your money, and your well-being, and your health, and your security. God endows, but if you believe Ba'amunah Shlema, and you focus on that idea that it's God who endows, everything evaporates instantaneously. That's the concept of Ain Od Milvado. 1, 1, 1. Aleph, Ayin, Mem, 111. Now look at these words of Reb Chaim Volozhiner. He says, when Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the Talmud of the Goin, says a skula, it's a powerful thing. Listen to this. Look in the paragraph number 17, Uve'emes. Hu inyan gadol uskula nifla. It's a great practice. It's a wondrous segula. Lahaser, to remove. Ulevatel me'alav. And to nullify. Kol dinin. All judgments. All harm. All difficulty. Uritzayas acherim. And all desires of others. Shlo yuchlu lishloit by. That they're not able to rule over you. V'layasu shum roishem. And they can't have any effect. Kisha adam koiveya beliboy lemar. When a person establishes in his thoughts, saying, Halai Hashem hu Elokim hu amiti. God is the true Ribono Shel Olam. Ve'ein Od Milvado yizbarach shem koyach ba'olam. There is no force, there's no power in the world. V'chol olam is klal, not in the world, not in the universe. Ve'hakol malei rak achdusai ha'poshe yizbarach shemai. And the world is filled with only God's unity. And by saying that the world is only God's unity, you're basically being mavatel. If the world is only God's unity, then him and that guy and that notion and that power is powerless. And you're mavatel every force in the world when you're meshabed umedabeg Torah machshavtai, when you subjugate and you cleave with purity of heart only to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, memela yizbatlu me'olav kol ha'koichos v'ratzonu sheba'olam. Every power, every rotzen in the world, everything that will come to harm you, anybody who has bad thoughts about you will disappear, evaporate, be incinerated instantly, in a moment. Nothing could harm you. You're going in a dangerous situation. You're in a makom sakana. The moment you focus on Ain Od Milvado, all there is in this world is Ribono Shel Olam. Anybody who tries to do anything to me is just endowed by God. But ultimately, only the Ribono Shel Olam has shlita. Nobody has shlita. Nothing to be afraid of. It's a skula nifla. It doesn't take time to work. Miyad. He says, miyad immediately. Memelo yispatlu. By the way, he says, in the Gemara tells us, Chazal say, that when the Klal Yisrael were being harmed in Parshas Chukas by the snakes, so Moshe made the snake, and he raises up the snake, and Chazal say, V'chi nachash meimis, v'nachash mechaya, does the snake kill, does the snake bring life? Ella, Chazal say, it's a mission Rosh Hashanah, when Klal Yisrael looked up, and they were meshabed their heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then Ribono Shel Olam helped them. What's the meaning of this? The meaning is like this. When Moshe raised up that snake, and they looked at the snake, and they said, Oy vai taka, the snake is very harmful, and the snake could hurt us, and the snake is hurting us. What do we do? And then they looked a little higher, and they realized that even the snakes were just messengers of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the truth is, the world is only malei achdusa yizbarach, and everything in the world is just an endowment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they thereby were mavatel the power that the snake had, and the snake disappeared, the snakes evaporated. That's what it means. They looked at the snake, and they realized, no, it's not the snake, it's above the snake, it's the Ribono Shel Olam. There are a few famous stories of the Brisker Rav, how the Brisker Rav used this lamaisa, how the Brisker Rav used this skula lamaisa on a couple of circumstances. They say Reb Chaim used it, Reb Chaim used it. So I called up some of my Brisker friends to get the exact Mesorah of when the Brisker Rav used it. So basically, there are two versions of this, of what the Brisker Rav did. Both versions have it that during World War II, the Brisker Rav was trying to get from Warsaw to either Vilna or Bialystok, or both. And the road was full of Nazis. It was an impasse. There's no way to get through. And the Grizz remembered that his father gave over to him the Mesorah from Chaim Volozhiner, that if he's misdabek, berichuz hamachshava. Richuz hamachshava is complete focus. That the Ribbon Hashem is the sole power in this world. He didn't let any other distractions get into his mind. Somehow, he said, he was able to travel on a road. It's lamala min hateva. He was able to get past the border. And the moment he crossed the border, he was like, he was so focused, he was like sweating with focus, that he couldn't contain the thought any longer, that he had to relax the thought. The moment he relaxed the thought, he was apprehended by a Nazi. The Nazi had came to him to be Neuchel. He was plotting against him, and the Brisker Rav said at that moment he re-strengthened himself to be mizdabek to the thought of Ain Od Milvado, and then all of a sudden the Nazi turned around, he had a conversation with somebody else, and he left. So that's the story of the Brisker Rav, that Lamaisa, he utilizes this technique, and he was saved. He attributes his salvation and his ability to come to Eretz Yisrael to the school of Reb Chaim Lashner of Ain Od Milvado. That is the power of this thought, Ain Od Milvado. Marv Rabbi say, if you look, so you say Ain Od Milvado, that's pretty late in the game, that the first person to say that if you're mizdabek to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with absolute devekos and not allow any other thought to get into your mind, it's a school in the flood to be protected from danger. What the first person to say this was Reb Chaim Lashner. So the truth is, the Rambam in the Mar Nevuchim seems to say this explicitly. If you look in the Rambam Mar Nevuchim Chele Gimel Parak Nun Aleph, the Rambam says in number 22 on the sheet, the Rambam says that, I'll translate the beginning, then we'll go to the second paragraph. He says that the moment the person removes HaKadosh Baruch Hu from their mind and loses focus on Hashem as the absolute ultimate force, then the Rebbe Shalom hides himself from the person, and now a person is subject to the vicissitudes of this world. He's then mezuman l'chora, because Hashem's hashgacha is in direct proportion with the cognizance and awareness that a person is thinking that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in absolute control. And then the Rambam says, if you look at number 22, in the second paragraph, the Rambam says like this: Hinei nizbar lecha, it is clear to you, Ki sibas hayois kol echa mimnei adam mufkar lemikrem. The reason why a person would be hefker to the coincidences, so to speak, of this world, and would be consumed and vulnerable to behemoths, who hayoisei muster me'Hashem, if a person allows themselves to be hidden from Hashem. Aval im Hashem leikav bekirbai. If the Rebbe Hashem is in a person's midst, if the Rebbe Hashem is in a person's thoughts, lo yiga boi ra klal, no evil will befall a person. So there's a pasuk now that became a catchy tune. The pasuk says in Yeshaya, Al tira ki yitcha ani, al tishta ki ani alekecha. Then there's another pasuk, ki savar b'mayim. You know the song? Go for it. Yeah? Ki savar b'mayim. If you pass through the water, itcha ani. Right? Uvenaharois lo yishtafucha. The Rambam teaches a pasuk like this: a person could be savar b'mayim, a person could be drowning, but va'ani itcha, if I'm in your mind, naharois lo yishtafucha, you won't be drowned. Not how we usually touch the pasuk. That even a person is passing through the water, the Rebbe says, I'm with you. No, you read it like this: if you're drowning in the water, but at that moment of sakana, you're mizdabek Ain Od Milvado, the water can't hurt me, then the water won't drown you. By the way, in the Sefer Pri Haaretz, the classic work of Rav Nachman Mendel Vitebsk, he says the same exact idea, word for word. In his 30th Michtav, he says on the 4th line, he says, K'fi shir dveikusoi bo yisbarach, kain shir hahashgacha. The more a person's mind cleaves to Hashem, the more Hashem protects a person. One who does mishala yasur sichloi dveikusoi mimano tamid, if a person doesn't allow their mind to be mesiach das, kenia shafa hashgachasoi bo miyad, immediately the bounty of Hashem will rest on the person. Okay. So I'm thinking, what exactly is this kayach of Ain Od Milvado? So we already let the cat out of the bag. Ain Od Milvado is Rashi Tevos Aleph, Ayin, Mem, which we said is Gematria 111. So I was very happy. I think this is the first time in my life I could say I was mechavein to the Belzer Rebbe. I was so happy because last night, Pinchas Friedman, Rosh Kolim of Belz, he made a wedding. And he told me about a week ago about the wedding, which means I got to go to the wedding. So I was able to tell him at the wedding, I told him over the Belzer Rebbe. But this is from the Sefer Yalkut Yashar. The Yalkut Yashar was the Sar Shalom of Belz. Sar Shalom of Belz was the Ershter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Belz. But the Belz are Hasidim in Belz. Now Belz is not a Hasidish town. Don't make a mistake. Anybody know who was in Belz? They didn't call him the Ershter Rebbe of Belz. They called him the Alter Rebbe of Belz because he wasn't the first Rav in Belz. Who was the first Rav in Belz? In the 1600s, the Bach. The Bach was the Rav in Belz. The Sar Shalom of Belz, his father was Rabbi Lazar Roikeach, who was not Hasidish. His father passed away very young. And he was raised by his uncle. And his uncle was a big misnagid. But you have to watch out if you're a big misnagid. You're in danger of bringing up Hasidim. So anyway, he would sneak out of the window every single night to learn with the Chavrusa in Yanei Chasidus. The Messiah in Belz says he did it 999 consecutive nights. And the night 1,000, the Satan had enough, so the Satan brought like a whirlwind and a tornado and, one of those twisters. And the other Chavrusa couldn't make it to the Beis Medrash. But the Belzer Rebbe made it to the Beis Medrash, but he didn't have a Chavrusa. So who came to learn with him? Eliyahu Hanavi came to learn. That's the Messiah, that's the Sar Shalom of Belz. His father, Rabbi Lezer Roikeach, was the grandson of the Masei Roikeach, one of the early Rabbanim in Amsterdam. We've quoted him many times. So he's Megala, that one of the Shemos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the names of God are Aleph, Ayin, Mem. Just says that. One of Hashem's name is Aleph, Ayin, Mem. And this shame gets rid of all trouble. Because where does all trouble come from? The nations of the world. How many nations of the world are there? Well, there's 70, but in Eretz Yisrael, there were 7 really. But we got rid of them. But we didn't get rid of all of them. There's still 3 we have to deal with. Who are they? Who? Keni, Knizi, Kadmoni. Those are their code names. What are their real names? Very good. Amoin, Edom, Moav. Aleph, Ayin, Mem. Edom, Amoin, Moav. And therefore Hashem's name of Aleph, Ayin, Mem is Keneged, the 3 nations that we still get trouble from. The root of all evil is Edom, Ammon, and Moav, and therefore the Shem Hashem to counteract that is Aleph, Ayin, Mem, which is Keneged, Aleph, Ayin, Mem, which is Keneged, Edom, Ammon, and Moav. And therefore it's Rashi Tevos, Ain Od Milvado. The novelty, the soy, the secret of Ain Od Milvado is the Rashi Tevos, Aleph, Ayin, Mem, is Keneged, Edom, Ammon, Moav. Good stuff, right?
What do you consider Ammon today?
Who do we consider? North Korea. I don't know. I'm not sure. So, that's the secret of Edom, Ammon, and Moav is Keneged, Ain Od Milvado. So he says further, what day of the week are we mevatel all the Umayis Ha'olam? What day of the week are we mevatel all the Umayis Ha'olam? Shabbos, right? We say Avraham Yogel. Because Avraham, who is related to Ammon and Moav, when Mashiach comes, he'll rejoice because Ammon and Moav will disappear. Yitzchak, who created Edom, Yitzchak, Avraham, Yog, Yitzchak, Yeranin, when Edom disappears. And Yaakov doesn't have to worry about anything, so he'll just rest. But he's not going to rejoice because nothing bad came out of Yaakov. But on Shabbos, Edom, Ammon, and Moav are gone. That's why in Vayeichulu we say, Melachtai Asher Asa. Melachtai Asher Asa, says the Belzer Rebbe, Rashi Tevos, Mem, Aleph, Ayin, Mem, Aleph, Ayin, is Keneged, Ain Od Milvado, which is Mevatel, Ammon, Edom, and Moav. So here's the thing. He says, what's the secret of Ain Od Milvado? Why does it get rid of every power in the world? He says two things. Number one, what are we worried about? We're worried about the other gods, the false gods, whatever they may be, whether they be powers that people put their faith in, whether they be money, whether they're all the things that people get caught up in. That's the pasuk of Lo Yeh Lecha Elohim Achirim. The gematria of Lo Yeh Lecha Loi is 31, Yeh is 30, Lecha is 50, is 111. So Ain Od Milvado is, which is 111, corresponds to Lo Yeh Lecha. There are two 111s in this world. You could have the 111 of Lo Yeh Lecha, all the false ideologies, all the false isms, all the foreign gods, that's 111. That's Edoi Mamoy Nemoyav, Aleph, Ayin, Mem, or connected that is Ain Od Milvado. Realize there's only the Rebbeinu Shalom. And on Shabbos, Malachtoi Asher Asa, the day of Shabbos, we inculcate in our minds, Ain Od Milvado, Umay Sa'olam dissipates. The Lo Yeh Lecha dissipates. And therefore, on the way down to Mitzrayim, what was Mitzrayim Malay? Also what? That's good, true, but it's not going to help me with the Shiur. What is it? What is it full of? Kishuf. Kishuf, Vayeitzey. Kishuf is a powerful thing. So Hashem tells Yaakov Avinu, take a look at number 26. Anoichi, Ered, Imcha, Mitzrayima. What are the Rosh Tevos of Ered, Imcha, Mitzrayima? Aleph, Ayin, Mem, Ain, Od, Milvado, 111. Don't worry. Don't worry about the Kishuf. Don't worry about Parah. Don't worry about the Mitzrim. Don't worry about anything. Just realize everything in this world is just my Ratzain that's manifest. And ultimately, we came out of Mitzrayim, and the end of Sefer Vayeitzey, Yosef says, do me a favor. You're going to be saved from Mitzrayim. But one thing you need to take out of Mitzrayim, don't you ever forget this. What is it? Look at number 27. Es atzmoisai mizeh. Take out of Mitzrayim, Aleph, Ayin, Mem, Ain Od Milvado. Don't forget, don't leave that in Mitzrayim. Don't say, oh, when things were going bad, God saved us, I believed in Hashem, and then at a time of salvation, we leave the Ain Od Milvado back where things were tough. Says Yosef, take out of Mitzrayim, Es atzmoisai mizeh. So then it hit me, the Rebbeinu Shalom sent me a big matana. Ain Od Milvado. You know, I'm looking at this Gemara. This is one of the most mysterious things to me. The whole Gemara about Ain Od Milvado starts off with what? Mules, white mules. Like what? It says that Rabbi Shimon Levi said, why are they called white mules? Yemim? Because everybody's afraid of them. And Rabbi Chanina said, if you get hit by a white mule, you're down for the count. And then that's the introduction too. But don't worry about anything. Ain Od Milvado. So it seems like, what does Ain Od Milvado save you from? It even saves you from the white mule. What does 111 save you from? It can even get you out of the biggest jam in the world. What's the biggest jam in the world? The white mule. So I realize Ain Od Milvado is 111. So if you count from the beginning of Bereshis, what is the 111th word? Yeah, Yemim, the white mule. That even if you are afraid, or you get up to the white mule. By the way, Yamim is 100, Samach Mem is 100. That's the ultimate Ra in the world. So that's something that people are very afraid of. Meaning, even if somebody is afraid of the most fiercest, most insidious, venomous, poisonous, powerful force in the world, the Yemim, don't worry. What's that? That's 111. If you believe Ain Od Milvado, if you believe that all there is in this world is HaKadosh Baruch Hu alone, nobody could hurt you, nobody could harm you, nobody could take away your money, nobody could take away your health, nobody could take away anything from you, nothing to worry about. This world is just you and the Rebbeinu Shalom. If a person lives with that security, the security of one, the Achdus Gamor. So the 111th word is what? Vatihi, David and Avigayil. The 111th word in the Torah is Vayavoy, Yaakov and Bilhah. The 111th word is Yada, Adam and Chava. And the 111th word in the Torah is the thing that we're afraid of more than anything else. And that is the Yemim, the white mule. Don't worry about the white mule. 111, Ain Od Milvado. Or you could say like the Rambam says, even if you're drowning in the Yamim, even if you're drowning in that sea, nevertheless, Itcha ani naharos lo yishtafucha. If your thoughts are with the Rebbeinu Shalom, nothing will override us. So obviously, that is the topic on Parshas Vayeitzey, where we have the 111th word in Vayeitzey. Should we all be zoicha to to merit, to inculcate this ideology and this idea of all there is in this world is a Ribono Shel Olam, as the Rak says, Rak Hashem, right? And should protect us. Can I add one point? No, one quick point. In all the Sifrei Chasidus, it talks about Hamtakas Hadinim. You ever hear that expression? Sweetening the dinim. It's a common expression, especially by the Sifrei Chasidus talk about the great tzaddikim are mamtik the dinim. They sweeten the dinim. So I'll tell you the truth, I never really knew what that meant. What does it mean to sweeten the dinim? Reb Chaim Volozhiner says in a footnote, in number 17, that the thought of Ain Od Milvado, which causes all din to vanish and evaporate, that's the side of Hamtakas Hadinim B'Sharasham. That's how you sweeten a din at its root. Meaning you remove, you take out, you suck out the vitality of all danger by saying, you know what, this is just the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All it is Achdus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Should remove from us all dinim and all paranios. Amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.